So,
I have a question.
yeah.
So if you come in at a privileged status, so you have a car and the car comes in at a lower duty rate, and then they add something to it, and that increases the value as well as the duty. The duty rate still remains low because it was privileged status.
Duty rate and the value. You freeze it at the time of bringing it in, the moment it enters into the foreign trade zone.
Even if they make it much nicer.
Even if they make it more beautiful and the best in the world.
Okay.
Yeah. That's the cool part. That's why you have this stuff. FTZs. Yeah? Pretty cool, huh? So then we have lesser valued, as far as customs exam is concerned, types. So one is domestic. What's domestic? Domestic is what it is. It's US made stuff. Why would you want to have FTZ for the US made stuff? Well, several reasons. First, lesser scrutiny, and you may want to do something for packaging, let's say. Let's say you want to package it in FTZ. So you bring it in and you package the stuff for whatever reason. If it stays as domestic, and then bring it out. Hold on a second. Do I have this? Ignore. So, I don't have an outline to give you guys. I'm sorry. I sent it to you by email. But page 12 discusses the domestic status. No, page 12. No, that's the wrong outline. Page 12. So, so what is the criteria for domestic? Growth, product manufacturer of United States, previously imported or previously entered. So in other words, it's the stuff which is in the United States. What is the reason? Why would you want to do it? And here's a table of reasons. Domestic packing, repair material, manipulation, manufacture, exhibition, destruction, transfer to customs. Destruction. Remember we talked about destruction, duty drawback? Well, one way to do it is utilize foreign trade zone. This is one of the specialties for FTZs, is destruction. So instead of entering it before you enter it for destruction, so duty drawback, you enter the stuff in and you destroy it, right? But let's say you brought that container and you decided to destroy this without entry. You don't want to send it to Joe because you'll be liable for all those general order duties. You don't want to enter it because entry means you losing that 1% for the duty drawback, right? You're still paying for that. But so what do? You take it out without entry to the FTZ. Because that's outside of customs territory of the United States, and you just kill the merchandise there. No entry. Yes, there are losses, but at least you're saving on the duty. Make sense? Zone restricted status is the fourth one. It's a little weird one. So the idea is to have is you take it there without ever wanting it to bring it back to the United States. Here's a point. Anytime you bring those things, you have to make up your mind before you bring this into the zone. You cannot all of a sudden privileged and then oops, I changed my mind. I want it to be non-privileged. You cannot do that. No. You must file the application and go through. You cannot do that. No. Once you file it, you're stuck with it. Yeah.
What happens if transfer the one zone to another? Can they change the status?
So yeah, FTZ zone you have to apply for the permit, but that means
But what the point of my question is, if they apply for the permit, can they change the status? For example, if they zone A is the number 1, and they transfer to another zone.
yeah, that's a good question. Usually,
Change to second one. I
Mm,
don't know.
yeah. yeah, my understanding is that you if you're gonna change the so what you're doing is like I said, the general rule is you're stuck with it. You have it. So what can you do to change it? Okay, to change it, perhaps you need to change the foreign trade zone stuff, but you're stuck with it. So maybe you need to change the foreign trade zone. So you bring it out from one foreign trade zone and apply for another one. I am not sure how that mechanic works because it sounds like circumvention to me. Maybe there is a vehicle. I'm not aware of this. I haven't seen customs exam asking about that. How can you circumvent the FTZ status? That's a good question though. I like it. I'm gonna need to explore that. Man, where are we? So let's say,
How many students they have?
hmm?
I just curious, how many students they have?
How many what?
Soon.
So, some?
Soon. The foreign trade is soon.
How many FTZ questions? You know, that's also. I haven't seen many FTZ questions last exam.
I don't remember.
But the previous exam, no, I think like 2 years ago, they did like 6 questions. So this is another point: is that one year you have ADDs, anti-dumping. Another day you have drawback, no FTZs, and then another year you have FTZs. So this is the reason why we will save it for last, because it's kind of like rolling the dice, right? You say it's a fair game, right? To ask about this. So what do? Is my assumption is fair. It can be there. If it is there, count for 5 questions, 5 to 7 questions. Yeah, maybe none, but if there are 5 to 7, so I think it's relatively important because they have those topics. Like today, we're going to discuss, the whole section, like you've seen in the exam if you download it. So what type of zone restricted, what type of situations would be available, would be valid for the zone restricted? In what case? And I already touched upon this in the case of marking. Remember marking? You pretend like we discussed marking. Remember some material has to be like die stamped or etched. This is expensive stuff. So let's say you have a bunch of shipment of scissors, which were die stamped with the country origin Honduras. In fact, the country origin is China. It's just people were like thought by exporting to Honduras and then shipping it to the United States, they can do that, get away with like duty free, whatever. So customs finds out, you customs broker do your due diligence, and you find out, okay, is it easy to erase that Honduras and put China when it's like, let's say it's die stamped, right? No, it's expensive. It's a whole process like machining, And then those are cheap scissors for the dollar store. Are you gonna bother with that? You already have shipment and port. You are the customs broker. What you're going to do? You're going to admit it to the FTZ for exportation, destruction, or storage. And then you decide whether to export or not to some other country. Remember, if it's marked incorrectly, why do you not want to enter it? If you recall, remember duty drawback discussion, we talked about marking duties. Remember the marking duty? What's a marking duty? Marking duty is a duty imposed on the merchandise which is improperly labeled. 10% on top of everything else. 10% is ouch. especially for the low margin products such as scissors. So you are sitting there, you do not know what to do. You don't want to enter it because it will cost you more, because you're gonna ended up exporting it anyway. So what do? Just like with the previous example of domestic, you bring it into the warehouse, but keep in mind, you cannot, you know that you are not, it's going to be too expensive for you to refurbish it to make it made in China instead of made in Honduras. So you know you're going to export it, just a question of, just a matter of time. So what do? You take advantage of zone restricted status. Okay, so this would be one example of application for zone restricted status, right? So that's those are the highlights which I wanted to go over with. I suppose another major point is that is the jargon, right? So the outline starts with definitions, and definitions are important, so you know what language you are using. And let's see. So when you see the phrase like you can actually, let me take that back. Zone restricted status is the only one that's frozen in time. For other times you can transfer to merchandise with zone status from a zone to another one where transportation, admission to another zone. You see this? So it works for all but zone restricted. So my bad, you cannot change the zone restricted status once you applied, other ones you can. So Sunny, you know the reason why I know this? Because when we speak about, let's see, the zone restricted status, we know that zone restricted status cannot be abandoned once granted. You cannot change it. For other ones, you do not have that notice, and that's found in regulation 146.44. All right. So you do not find that provision in others, to my knowledge. So and the fact that you can retransfer it to another zone is a testament to that. Okay. To know that form 214. 214 is an application for entry to FTZ. So whenever it's an easy question to answer if asked, and I pray very much that more of these questions will come in. But 214 is the application for the zone. Another thing, know who the players are in FTZ settings. So we have, you mind if I raise it? No, it's okay. So who are the players? Remember we discussed players, right? The players are important because various players, they have various responsibilities. So we have in FTZ settings, we have operator. So FTZ, we have operator. Operator does not refer to the guy who like Hoffman Laroche who brings the stuff, right? They refer to the person who operates the establishment. what's the counterpart in the warehouse setting? Warehouse. Proprietor. What's the counterpart in drawback setting? Well, it's kind of off, but we have claimant, right? Usually we have claimant, claimant, claimant. But this is kind of separate. Then we have grantee. Grantee. Who is grantee? Grantee
The person who owns the goods.
is the person who actually gives the operator license to operate. Top. Activation means approved by grantee and port director for operations and for admission of handling of merchandise with one status. Right? So keep in mind two players, right? Grantee and a port director. Both must approve. How does FTZ come into the being? By the dual cooperation of the zoning board, zoning, like you know the cities, right? If each part of the city has its own zoning regulations. You cannot establish certain places, certain establishments because of the zoning rules. You cannot build your house more than 5 stories because of zoning rules. Those and customs too. So both in conjunction. It's kind of like a partnership here that establish foreign trade zones. Is there certain type of merchandise which cannot be admitted to the foreign trade zone? What type?
Restricted, maybe?
Restricted means it's restricted, subject to restriction. If you comply with the restrictions, you can. How about prohibited merchandise?
Yeah.
Now, the question, of course, comes is what's prohibited merchandise?
Lottery tickets?
Yeah,
Yes,
it
yes.
is.
Yes.
Lottery tickets and obscene pictures.
Yes.
I was reading this court opinion. So someone was trying to bring to copyright, I think like a magazine which shows the nude people, and the copyright was not granted on the basis that it's on the public moral grounds. It goes back to like 150 years. So the question came up where the judge, a smart man usually, I think it was Supreme Court, they face a problem. They must define what's the meaning of pornography, right? And because if it's like erotical, it's like artistic, right? Design. If it's pornography, then it's just obscene, not allowed. So where do you draw the line? Because we like the lines, right? Because those are important. Those where we can do and we cannot do. So the poor judge, he looked at it, he tried to struggle to decide like, okay, this is a porn, this is erotic, this is a porn, this is erotic. And then he's like, no, you know what? This is my definition. I know it when I see it. I know it when I see it. The moment I see it, I know that this is porn, and this is obscene. So to this day, I think we have the definition. I know it when I see it, because it's very difficult some things to describe. What's what's morals, right? Like insurrection against the United States. Is that immoral? Well, how about reading the Declaration of Independence? Did anyone read the Declaration of Independence lately? Read it. Read it. Not today, not tomorrow, right? After exam. It says, It is if there is a tyrant, if there is a tyrant in the government, it is not it is not the right, but it is the duty of the people to overthrow the tyrant. How you have people who created our nation calling supposedly, and they followed up with that, with a call for insurrection against the Great Britain, right? So how can you reconcile that? I guess that's a question for the future. So to drive home, some things cannot be done, and lottery ticket other ones. Okay, another person. Who would be like Hoffman Laroche? Who would be like person who are actually using the FTZ? They are using FTZ for the purpose. So grantee is the guy who runs it, right? The guy who runs it. We know the operator. No, I'm sorry. Operator is the guy who runs it. Grantee is the guy who gives the license to run. So who would be the actual person who is like doing things, taking advantage of FTZ? User. Yep, user. So we have a suspense account. I think it was tested at one point. Suspense account. Suspense account. What's a suspense? It doesn't sound like a good word. Suspense. So we live in an imperfect world, and when you apply with the CBP form 214 for admission, you are sometimes unable to substantiate something. And if you cannot do that, you are placed in what is known as suspense account. So you can bring the stuff into the zone, but the zone is not, this is not considered to be formal admission. It will not be formally admitted into the zone. So once you fulfill your duty and once you update your documentation, it will be formally admitted. Let's see. What about HMF? Does HMF apply to the FTZ? Yeah, yeah. HMF applies. Yeah. So that's all I wanted to cover about FTZs. Unless someone has any other suggestions, I'm just gonna quickly go over the warehouses and move on to quotas. Okay, done deal. So warehouses.